guys, welcome back to World of Tanks. My name is Bruce and today I want to present 10 golden tips for you if you are playing wheeled light tanks. If you're interested in more reviews and gameplay, go to YouTube and search for World of Tanks with Bruce to get all of my videos, or click on the subscribe button. In addition to this, you can now also support me on Patreon, so feel free to follow this link and become a patron. And now, let's go. Wheeled light tanks are very unique tanks in the game, and while they can make the difference at the end of the game, they are extremely tough to play. With this tutorial, however, you will be able to master them and become an integral part of your team when it comes to turning around a game. Before we start with some gameplay, we have to compare the wheeled light tank against the regular tracked light tanks. So here I have all the regular tracked light tanks, which are not non-premium of the same tier compared to the lynx 6x6. And it is crucial to understand the difference between the wheeled light tank and the regular light tanks. So in general, I would say the firepower of the wheeled light tanks is inferior compared to the other light tanks. While the penetration value is actually not too bad, the DPM is in general worse. Now obviously the British light tank, which leads to the Manticore, does have a very bad DPM. That's just how those light tanks are designed. And the Badger 12T is an autoloader tank, so the DPM is also worse. But the rest of the tanks do have a, I would say, significantly better DPM. And also the damage value is actually pretty good on this tank, but in general, in my opinion, the firepower is reduced. Now, keep in mind that this tank does have even a worse armor profile than the rest of the light tanks. The camo value is actually very good and superior compared to most of the other light tanks. However, the problem is that the view range is so much inferior compared to the rest of the tracked light tanks. So the camo value alongside with the view range, so for example the HWK12 does have a superb view range but the worst camo value, but if you compare those two values, then the spotting ability of the tracked light tanks is actually much better compared to the lynx. On the other hand, you in the lynx have a very good gun handling plus a very good mobility. And so this brings me to tip number 1. Do not compete against passive scouts, i.e. do not rush into a bush and conduct passive scouting because your tank is not suited for this task. Your tank is suited for active scouting because your view range sucks, and alongside with your camo value, your spotting ability is just insufficient to conduct passive scouting. So this is not the task that your tank is built for, and that is not what you should do, because those passive scouts will be better in this regards compared to your tank. So once again, do not compete with those passive scouts, but use the tank to its benefits. And what I mean with this, I will now show you in the next gameplays. Alright, here we are in the first game with our lynx 6x6, and as usual, let's take a look at the map. Spawning on Studzianki in the west, you have several options with your light tank. Obviously, the light tank for passive scout could be here, and most of the wheeled light tanks player rush into this position onto the open field in order to go into this little ditch right here and do a spotting run in conjunction with winning this little ditch. Now, in my opinion, this is a very aggressive move, so I would rather either go to the south here, play a little bit more defensively, or maybe go to the north, however, not conducting such an aggressive move right at the beginning. So clearly this is not what we want to do, and this brings me to tip number 2. Only conduct spotting runs if it is not too risky. Conduct a spotting run if you need to decide the game, however this is usually not at the beginning of the game. Now, if you conduct a spotting run on the open field, enemy tanks will kind of pre-aim this position and you will be taken out instantaneously, and so the benefit of doing this is very slim to even zero. So Don't throw away your tank with too aggressive spotting runs at the beginning of the game. This is extremely important in a weird light tank. So instead, I am moving to the south and kind of playing this tank as a medium tank. Now, obviously I arrive here first, so I could go down to the ditch. However, I'm waiting for my team to follow me because I do not want to do what the VIII 46 is doing and just rushing into this position and then having to fight against another tank which has better armor protection. Okay, I think I was not spotted, but maybe I was driving in front of the STA-1 and maybe he was spotted. So you don't want to rush into this position without any support, because you're sitting in a tank which has less armor protection, less DPM, less penetration, so we're just not superior compared to other teams. Now, fortunately, the VIII had some help from the Senlac, and now we have won the ditch, which is good. However, so far, I mean, I still have already have lost 364 HP, which is bad. So I only have 556 remaining. However, the golden rule is to not waste your tank with too aggressive spotting runs at the beginning of the game. Now, this actually brings me to tip number 3, and I will show you what this means throughout the game. The tip is very obvious, and I am kind of repeating this tip because I also brought this tip in the tutorials of the regular light tanks in World of Tanks. It is stay alive until the end of the game. If there's no opportunity for you in your weird light tank, then just be patient and rather do nothing than wasting your tank, because your high quality is your high mobility, and you can make use of this mobility particularly at the end of the game when the amount of enemy tanks is reduced. Now, being patient is in general, let's say, difficult, because we all want to make damage and be part of the fight. And it is extremely difficult in a weird light tank. But as you can see, I'm just playing the tank as a regular tank, as a medium tank, which is obviously inferior compared to a regular medium tank, because, as I said, of my lower penetration, lower DPM, and no armor whatsoever. But the time has not yet come in order to make use of my quality, which is my mobility and my agility. As you can see, tank-wise it is 5 to 3, and HP-wise it is actually pretty equal if those numbers are true. 10,800 compared to 10,600. So far it is not time to make an aggressive spotting run, and I just want to preserve my hit points, stay alive until the end of the game where my special quality is needed. So far I'm just conducting, let's say, regular gameplay, and the time will come at the end in most of the games where you can make use of your special qualities. So this is extremely important in a weird light tank. So let's see. So tank wise it is actually looking pretty good in this game. Looks like, fortunately, as you can see, we have enough forces in the south, so I will have the support once I make a spotting run. And my idea is to eventually make a spotting run on the 0 lane and go to the north here in order to spot all of the remaining tanks and also make damage. But so far I don't want to rush into this spotting run too early, because I need the support of my team. And the problem here in the south is, as there are lots of buildings, like if I would spot one or another tank here, then those tanks could not take those spotted tanks under fire, because there are lots of obstacles in the way. Plus, I only have 556 HP remaining, and so 1 to 2 shots, so maybe 2 to 3 shots, will take me out of the game, and so I cannot risk too much in this situation. So as soon as my team is advancing, I will rush forward and make a spotting run. But so far I need my team to start the advance, and once again, patience is the key to success in a weird light tank. So now my team is advancing, and now I will support my team and maybe get a shot on the T-34. Nope, it is taken out. Perfect, but now I'm spotted. I need to move towards cover, because keep in mind, you are in a crossfire situation from those tanks here and maybe this tank and this tank, so hiding myself behind this building. And maybe I can take out the T-34. Let's see. Here we go. Nice. Yep, spotted. So let's hide behind the building. And now it is time for me to conduct a spotting run. There is the G-Saw, but he is almost down to being one shot. Now it is time to make a spotting run. And this brings me to tip number 4. Make a spotting run if you can see an abandoned, or if you can see, or let's say look for an abandoned tank. So look out for and punish abandoned tanks. This is the job for you in your weird light tank. If there is an abandoned tank, rush towards it and kill it. Usually a single tank has no chance against you, as you are a highly mobile and highly agile tank. And as you can see, I'm rushing now towards the position where I expected the tank destroyers. And now let's see, Ferdinand wants to shoot me, but he is unable to hit. And now he is turning his turret, but he is unable because he doesn't have a fully rotatable turret. Now in this situation, while I get all the sweet spotting damage, I make a mistake because I should use the agility mode in order to be more flexible, more agile, and in order to evade the shots. However, that is a mistake by myself. But as you can see, I managed to stay alive with this risky move because and so I could make 2,900 assisting damage right now. And now it is time to punish this remaining Indian Panzer. And as soon as he will be looking towards the other tanks, I can sneak out and get a shot. Yep, he is moving his turret to the side, and now I can finish him off. So this game, in my opinion, showed how you should conduct gameplay in a weird light tank. You have to be extremely patient. You have to get rid of making too aggressive moves at the beginning of the game, because with those too aggressive moves, the only thing you will achieve is you will waste your tank and you will not be able to make use of your best quality, which is your agility and your mobility. Alright, next game, and I want to show you this game in order to present the next 3 tips. So we'll only take a look at the beginning of the game, but as usual, first of all, let's take a look at the map. Spawning on Mountain Pass in the north, what light tank players, especially weird light tank players, usually do is they rush towards the middle here. In my opinion, I would not do this because you can be taken under fire from this position, from this position, from this position, and maybe even if those tanks have advanced here from this position. So it is extremely likely that you will be taken out of the game. Now you might be able to kill this light tank, but what does it bring you as a result if you are also taken out? So instead, what you can do is you can try to counter the light tank gameplay with playing more defensively, and this is what I want to show you in this game. So as I explained, and as you can see, we are competing against the EBR, the tier 8 light tank, and the tier 10 AMX 13105, and as I explained, I'm expecting those tanks to go down into the riverbed right here, and I certainly do not want to go down there and waste my tank against them. So what I want to do is I want to conduct smart gameplay, and this brings me to tip number 5. Instead of conducting useless and deadly spotting runs, try to outplay your opponents. This is what you are supposed to do, what you should do in a weird light tank. So try to outplay other tanks, especially light tanks. And here you can see, now, here you go, can I get a first shot? Excellent, this is what I want to do, and now I will reverse and hide, and this actually brings me to tip number 6, and this is use HE in order to increase your damage. As you can see, I'm using HE, and the good thing about weird light tanks is they have an extremely good HE shell. So as you can see, I have 240 alpha damage on the regular shell, and with 223 millimeters of penetration on the premium shell, but I have 320 alpha damage on the HE shell with 75 millimeters of penetration, which is way enough to compete against the AMX 13105. So this is what I want to do, and this is why I preloaded the HE shell, and I want to outplay this tank. And Now you saw me switching the from the, I would call it the mobility mode to the agility mode. So this is my tip number 7. Carefully choose your driving mode. Use the speed mode or the mobility mode, however you want to call it, for spotting runs or to rush in a position just like I did here, and use the agility mode to circle enemies or to circle enemy tanks or to evade damage as I am doing here, because in your agility mode you are much more agile, but the top speed is reduced. So as you saw me doing, just use the mobility mode or the speed mode to rush into position, but then switch the modes and do that on purpose in order to get the best result in your tank. So back to the game. Go. This is, in my opinion, a good example of smart gameplay. Now, instead of wasting my tank, wasting my wheeled light tank right at the beginning, and keep in mind this tank is an autoloader tank, so he has 3 times 390 alpha damage, so he could kill me right away. Instead of doing this, I'm actually conducting smart gameplay, and I'm now hiding myself so that he kind of gets the feeling that I am not in this position anymore. And now I want to move out. Looks like he has also maybe relocated. And so I want to carefully drive forward, and here you go, another shot into the back. Unfortunately, I do not light him up, but that is alright. He has now 42 hit points remaining, and we managed to almost completely take out the AIM-X13105, the tier 10 light tank. Obviously, this is not a map for a light tank. Maybe we can now, oh, now he's taken out. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you in this game. So obviously, this is not the map, this is not a typical map for a light tank, so yeah, the game is not won just because we could take out the enemy light tank. However, this is the smart gameplay that you should conduct in your wheeled light tank, and keep in mind the deficiencies of the wheeled light tanks and use it to your advantage. So at the beginning, it's not the time to make a too risky spotting run, but instead outplay your opponents, as I did in this example. Alright, third game in the Lynx 6x6. This time we're spawning on Chinese border in a tier 8 matchup, and I wanted to show you this game because Chinese border is basically the opposite of an open map. So it is extremely difficult, not only for light tanks, or particularly I should say for wheeled light tanks, but nonetheless I would show you that you can even have a good result on such a map. But first of all, let's take a look at the map. Spawning on Chinese border with your light tank, you actually do not have too many choices, and as this is not really an open map, this is also not the best map for you. Now, lots of light tank players tend to rush towards the middle, however, once again, they will be very soon taken out of the game. So instead, with the light tank spawning from this spawn, I tend to move right here because I have some kind of country protection or countryside protection in order to fall back and not risk too much. So this is actually where I go, and if you move even up to here, then you might be able to spot basically this part of the map, depending on your view range, but you certainly have a much less risk of being taken out at the beginning of the game. Okay, so this is what we are going to do, and by the way, if you have watched my other videos, then you know that my recommendation is to never go towards the hill right here from the northern spawn, because the southern spawn does have an earlier access towards the hill and they can set up a crossfire situation. So one tank is most likely in this position, the other one in this position, and if you rush the hill, you have no chance and you will be taken out very early. Now, lots of light players tend to rush right here, as I said, towards this position, but this is a very, very risky move, and you know my tip number 2, in which I told you to never conduct risky gameplay. So instead, I want to go here, and this actually brings me, as you can see, I spotted the VIII 54. This brings me to tip number 8. Now, not so much in this game. Here we go, once again. As I was expecting a light tank, I used HE and made sweet 326 damage. Now, my tip number 8 is conduct high payoff spotting runs. Now, what do I mean with this? You should make spotting runs towards strong passive spotting positions of enemy light tanks. So if there is a light tank position, a passive spotting light tank position, which is very strong and from which the other team might be able to kind of have an advantage in the game and be able to decide the game, you should kind of spot this position in order to deny the enemy passive spotter to take this particular strong position. Now, I don't have an example for you because in this game, as you can see, it is not so much the case. Most likely on this is the case on open maps like I don't know, maybe Malinovka also on and so forth. But this would be an example where you could make a so-called high payoff spotting run, and once again, not at the beginning in order to throw away a tank, or where the risk is actually increased that you will throw away a tank, but maybe sooner or later in the game. But this is basically the theory behind those weird light tanks. You are there to counter regular light tanks with your active spotting capabilities. So this is what you should keep in mind in your light tank. And maybe there's the possibility for you, or the opportunity, to conduct a somewhat, let's say, a high payoff spotting run against an enemy passive scout, but where you could still not risk too much and throw away your tank at the beginning. So we're playing this position. We get wonderful crossfire on the Brusque and also on the T-28, and now I'm spotting. But as I said, the benefit of this position is that I can fall back and simply hide in order to not get punished by the enemy team. So can we get another shot on the Lynx? No. So far we collected 1000 damage. We did not do any risky move, and so we preserved all of our hit points, and this is exactly what you should do at the beginning of the game. Now, if you take a look at the minimap, you see that my medium tanks are reversing, and so I certainly do not want to be on this flank on my own, because those tanks could make pressure and just push me out here, and I would have no chance fighting against 2 or 3 enemy tanks. So obviously keeping an eye on the minimap is extremely important. So instead I am just falling back, discontinuing my light tank gameplay, and just, you know, playing alongside with my team and just trying to get one or another shot here or there. So let's switch the driving mode, because now I need agility over mobility, or over speed I should say. And now I know that there's the S from Brex. I was expecting the 7032. Okay, I'm spotted, so can I get a shot? No, but I certainly want to fall back into cover, because the worst thing I could do here is to lose my points. Okay, so now I want to pause the game right here and make the minimap a little bit bigger. Now, this object 7032 has, as you can see, only 62 remaining HP. Now, every tank was spotted, as you can see, so we know exactly where all the rest of the enemy team is. Now, there's the T-103 in this position. He might be engaged in with the Skoda T-27. So this brings me to tip number 9, which is exploit holes in the enemy front line. Now, as you can see, if this tank is taken out, there's only this tank which is entangled in a fight with the Skoda T-27. So there is a loophole in the enemy defense, I would say, or in the enemy front line. So I can exploit this hole in the front line and move here and maybe fall into the back of those tanks, or maybe just push through and maybe fall into the back of those tanks here. So there is the loophole, I would say, in the enemy front line, the hole in the enemy front line. And this is where your time has come in a real light game, because you have the best mobility, the best speed in the game, and this is the time where you should exploit this possibility. So if there's a hole in the enemy front line, usually towards the end of the game, exploit that hole with your mobility and kill RTs or kill TDs, or flank heavies or mediums, or spot remaining tanks. This is the one and only feature of your tank, that where you are the strongest tank in the game. Now, excellent. So I'm using the regular ammunition because I'm not sure actually whether the armor in the back of the VK100 is weak enough where I could... here you go. I use my speed. Okay, I did not expect the T28 here. But I used my speed in order to evade the shot of the T103. And I can get all those wonderful shots on the back of the VK100. Now, this is not an open map. This is a map which is not beneficial for light tanks, but instead, but this does not mean anything, because with smart gameplay, you can also have a good result in your light tank. And now I want to move forward. And now this brings me to tip number 10. Use the what I call circle of death in the tank. Now, unfortunately, I get a shot on the from the T28 just once again, and this kind of pisses me off a little bit, but that's... Here you go. Now I'm at least driving back into cover and not receiving a shot of the T28 once again. Now, use the agility mode in order to circle your enemies, and then use auto aim in order to concentrate on the driving, and then just, you know, press the mouse button once your penetration marker is changed to green, indicating that you will be able to penetrate the tank. Now, using the circle of death, usually what you can do is using HE ammunition, because as I said, you have 75mm of penetration and your alpha damage is increased compared to the regular ammunition. So what you should do, just like in a regular light tank, and I made this tip in the other tutorial as well, you should, in a 1v1 situation, use your agility and your mobility in order to circle enemy tanks, because enemy tanks will most of the time have a reduced turret rotation speed, and you can exploit that by using what I call the circle of death. So circle those tanks, use auto aim in this part, or in this portion, because you want to concentrate on the driving, not making a driving error. And auto aim is sufficient in this circumstances. So yeah, those were my 10 tips. You can see them right here, and in my opinion, if you follow those 10 tips, you will be a better wheeled light tank player, and you will be able to exploit the strength of those wheeled light tanks. And the thing about the wheeled light tanks is they have some particular strength that no other tank in the game has. However, in other situations, they are just weaker compared to regular tanks, and they are certainly not a flexible tank, but they are situationally very strong. And you have to be patient in your gameplay until the point where those opportunities arise, and then you can exploit the strength of your tank. And this is how you should play wheeled light tanks. Alright guys, that was it for today with 10 golden tips on how to play wheeled light tanks. What do you think about wheeled light tanks? Do you like them? Do you like their playstyle, or do you hate them and darn the day they entered the game? Just leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I see you next time in another World of Tanks video.